He's a sawing and jawing and doing his thing.
Hey Woodworkers, welcome back. We're going to talk about the second jig in our Getting Jiggy lineup for this episode, the Mighty Miter cutoff sled. Now a miter sled is a very handy jig to have in your shop because it allows you to cut your stock off at a perfect 45 degrees. And hey look, I just happen to have an example of that in my apron pocket. This is the perfect 45 degree cutoff that we're going to be looking for in the demo. Now you can use this jig to create picture frames. You can trim the window frames in your home all the way up to the door frames if you like that miter accent. When it's done right, it's beautiful. Now a word about safety. I've removed the blade guard on my inexpensive table saw because it was pretty much junk and I felt unsafe using it. That was my choice. I'm going to encourage all of you to leave your safety devices in place. Now I'm going to stop jawing and we're going to start sawing. Okay, we're back. I just wanted to say that this amazing overhead shot is being brought to you by the patented Saws and Jaws camera boom of doom hovering high above our workshop floor. It's going to allow us to really demonstrate this sled well. So this is the Mighty Miter cutoff sled. I have cobbled this thing together from so many body parts out of my offcut bin over the years that we call this the Franken sled. It's got a big box flooring plywood base, cheapest you could probably find, but flat and stable, does the job. We've got another offcut here that acts as the base for our hold down. I've got a piece here. This is my handle that I'm going to push this thing through the cut with. This is off an IKEA something or another that I tore apart and saved. And a very important piece I've added recently. This is a little hardwood jig or hardwood fence as part of the jig that's going to support this very narrow and thin tip as the blade's going to exit this way. So this fence supports the tip of that miter cut so that it doesn't blow out and splinter on us. Last piece, very critical piece, of course, is our aluminum fence. And the fence allows the piece to be held very steadily in there like that. And then as the blade passes through there, the fence holds that thing very tightly in there. So, without further ado, we're almost ready. So, we're going to bring this little guy in here. This is just a little magnetic jig I threw together. I'm going to turn the magnet on. And there you see that holds that down onto the cast iron table saw bed. This is going to allow the offcut to just set as it passes through the blade rather than fall onto the table saw bed. Could shoot back. Probably not a big deal, but again, better safe than sorry. And we'll adjust that very tight into the blade like that. So that as we pass that over there, you can see we're going to have a lot of clearance. So let's cut. Now the first thing we want to do, of course, don't make this mistake, raise your blade up. Duh. Let's raise our blade. So we mentioned we're going to bring this up fairly high because we've got to clear the thickness of the jig plus the thickness of the stock. And again, I like to raise it about so that a couple of gullets are sticking up over the top of the stock. I'm going to tighten that guy down. Now I think we're ready to cut. So let's line it up and let's draw on there a 45 degree miter as we're going to cut it. So I'm going to use a very thick pencil, actually a felt pen. That's the miter there, just for clarities, so you can see that. Put that guy back. Now we're going to attach that into our jig, and I'm going to line up the tip with the edge of this hardwood fence here so that we get the support we need when the blade exits the wood. Then I'm going to push my hold down tight. Now that is clamped very tight. So I'll be pushing this through the blade with my hand here and my other hand over here, well away from the blade. Because you know what? I like to keep these digits around for texting and feeding myself. And very important that you keep your hands well away from the blade because it's quite high up there. So here we go. Let's turn this guy on and make some sawdust. Okay, never, ever, ever, ever reach in there and try to remove that thing while that blade is spinning, because you never know what's going to happen. Well, I think that was a pretty good cut. We see that this hardwood fence worked perfectly. The fragile tip of our miter did not splinter a bit, and this is very soft pine. So there you have it, folks. These two pieces come together to form a perfect 45-degree miter, and then two miters, of course, equal 90 degrees on the inside of the joint, and that's a perfect 90 degrees. We'll look at that. Yep, that little square just sits in there perfectly at 90 degrees. So there you go. That is the Mighty Miter cutoff sled, and quite easy to make. Encourage you to try to make one. Again, many different varieties of this. Build your skills, and you'll be making perfect miters in no time.